Welcome everyone to our Solarize Anchorage and Matsu 2023 kickoff. Thank you for spending your evenings with us. Very excited to be starting things this year a little bit earlier than we normally do. So hopefully we'll have time to make some good efforts to get the word out about this program, tell all of our neighbors about it, and get things going. So just a little bit about what to expect in this webinar here today. We will go over the program basics and some past campaigns and testimony from people who have solarized in the past. I'll walk through the application materials needed to apply your community as a Solarize community. I also have an example pricing template that I will walk through with you all. The numbers on that pricing template are just estimations from what the prices were this past summer. So maybe don't pay too much attention to the exact price per watt. It's just more about the structure of how our pricing works. And then we also have the other incentives available for us here in Alaska and our program timeline. Then we'll have time at the end for a Q&A period. During the presentation, you can go ahead. There should be a little bubble on the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. So you can go ahead and put any question that you have throughout the presentation into that, and it'll automatically get queued up and we can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So hello, everyone. Wanted to get my contact information and Chris Pike's as well out in the beginning of the presentation, just in case we have folks who need to hop off before the end and you have questions that you would like answered. My name is Rachel Christensen. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling in from Talkeetna lands in Palmer. I am the clean energy organizer for the Alaska Center. So I do work around all of our Clean Energy for Alaskans campaigns. A lot of it looks like engaging folks in utilities, and then a lot of it is facilitating Solarize programs in Anchorage and in the Matsu. And I can pass it over to Chris to give a little introduction.
Sure, thanks, Rachel. I'm Chris Pike. I'm with the Alaska Center for Energy and Power. We are an applied research center based out of the University of Alaska Fairbanks. However, my office is here in Anchorage, and we've been partnering with the Alaska Center for Solarize since it first began in 2018. I generally serve as a technical liaison for the program, so if there's any technical questions that come up, I do my best to answer those or to find answers to those.
So what is Solarize? Solarize Anchorage and Solarize Matsu are programs that we run in partnership with the Alaska for Energy and Power and the Alaska Center. These programs are not specific to Alaska. The programs were adapted from the Solarize model that was brought out of Portland, Oregon. So there are Solarize programs nationwide all across the state of Alaska. We run programs up, well, not communities run programs in Fairbanks, down in Homer, and then we have these ones here. Like Chris said, they've been running since 2018 in Alaska. Our first program was in Airport Heights, but the purpose of these programs is to make solar energy accessible and affordable for home and business owners. So we do that by reducing our 3 market barriers, which are cost, complexity, and customer inertia. So those barriers and how we address them with the Solarize model. High upfront cost, we sort of tackle by using a group purchase in the community that gets us a volume discount. So you and your community members, your neighbors, people that live around you, are essentially getting a bulk discount on solar installation. So you get together to purchase all of your panels from the installation company at the same time, which will get you a discount on the purchase of the panels. But then you're also all located within the same area, so it allows the installers to have an easier time actually getting out and getting to all of the people who decided to solarize with that program. So it allows them to give a discount during the installation phase of the program as well. We usually say that folks get about a 10% discount when they go through the Solarize program versus going just like regular to an installer to get solar. Another thing that Solarize helps with is complexity. It's no secret that solar is kind of a complicated topic. I am not a technically minded person. That is why we have Chris here. So we work together to make those difficult decisions, like what installation company you want to choose, how many panels you're getting, what kinds of technology are available, all that stuff. We make those decisions with leadership and expertise, but also as a community. So we make 3 community committees. One is the steering committee, one is the selection committee, and one is the outreach committee. The selection committee works to choose which installation company is getting chosen for the community. So that's a big decision that folks often have trouble making. And that just kind of helps alleviate the pressure off of individuals by making those decisions with a group of people who can sort of share resources and knowledge between each other. We also help folks combat customer inertia by using our limited time offer on the tiered pricing structure. So like I said, it's a bulk purchase discount. So the way that we have the tiered pricing structure set up, you basically, the more people that buy solar panels, the cheaper it is for everyone. And how we achieve that is by offering that on a limited timeline. So typically folks will have until like the end of July, early August, depending on what the installation company chooses, to sign their contract for that summer to get that tiered pricing option. So this is a list of communities who have solarized in the past. Our Anchorage and Mat-Su programs are at 316 houses and counting. So like I said, we started in 2018 in Airport Heights. Last year, we held our first program in the Mat-Su. So that was really exciting. We had a lot of good interest in the Valley. It says here that our numbers are still to be determined because we are still doing installations in the Valley. If you see your community that you're in now on this list, don't give up hope. There is still opportunity for folks to solarize again. People move out in and out of communities all the time. And a lot of these areas in Anchorage haven't been solarized in the past couple of years. So we can definitely work together. If you think that there's a strong interest in your community, we are happy to help you and see if we can get a program running in your area. And this is just some Solarize testimony from folks who solarized in the past. All of these are from the Eagle River campaign in 2021. It was Eagle River in Talkeetna Valley. So just some people being happy that they have solar now. One thing that I did want to highlight in sort of the top left one of these testimonies, they say that they hope to connect an off-grid battery backup to their solar system. Something that was new in the program last year is a lot of our installation companies that we work with are offering off-grid battery backup options. I say that with the caveat that those are very expensive options. So the installation company will provide you with all of the resources that you need to make that decision if that's right for you and your home. But if that is something that you're interested in, it is an option now that the companies that we work with are giving. And these are those 3 committees that I mentioned earlier and the roles that they play. So our steering committee is going to be the first one that forms, and these are going to be area organizers, we call them, just folks who have stepped up in the community, who have a strong interest in the Solarize program and have time to commit to helping us run that program in their area. So those people are going to work with me and Chris to create a community-specific plan and develop an RFP, or a request for proposals, that is going to go out to the installation companies in Alaska for them to make bids on. These folks are just going to work together with us throughout the year, throughout the Solarize program, to help drive everything forward. And we hope that these folks are just people that have good relationships in their community, who would know like good ways to reach out to people, things like that would fit these roles well. And then we have our selection committee. So these are the folks who are going to come together to evaluate the bids that are received from that RFP and select the community installation company. You do not have to have a lot of technical experience to sit on the selection committee. If you do, that's wonderful. We're excited to have you. But if you don't, we do have Chris, who's there to decipher all of that complicated information and make it easier to understand, ask lots of questions, things like that. So if you are interested in the technology component of the program, if you're interested in having a say in like what installation company is chosen, then the selection committee is a great place for you. And then our outreach committee is the last committee that will form. And these folks are just going to make sure that community members know about the program as an opportunity. So they're going to work together with me to host outreach events. If you want to call all your neighbors, knock on their doors, put flyers up, like get pizza and sit out at a community building and answer questions for people, whatever that looks like for your community, the outreach committee is going to work together to make that happen. So if you are interested in getting involved with a Solarize program and you think that one of these committees sounds exciting to you, can send me an email and we can try and set you up with some other folks in your area that are interested in getting involved as well. And these are what we see as elements of a successful Solarize program. So the biggest one really is that it's community driven. With those 3 committees of volunteers. The purpose of a Solarize program is to allow community members to make decisions that are best for them. So we don't want to make those decisions for you. We're just here to provide information, to provide connectivity between you and your neighbors, to get the word out, things like that. But really what it comes down to is we want you all to have all the resources that you need to make the decisions that are best for you. So a good Solarize program is going to be completely run by the community, which requires strong and consistent volunteers. So we do ask if you are hoping to step up and be involved in one of these programs, if you want to see it happen in your community, that you are willing to give us a bit of your time and help us out, whether that's like getting the word out, talking to your neighbors, sitting on the selection committee, giving us your technical expertise, asking all those important questions, things like that. We just want to make sure that we have folks who are really passionate about making this program move forward on our team to make it easier for us all. And then a Solarize program also uses already made networks. So a lot of our programs function through community council areas, which is great because it's already a group of people who's getting together to discuss opportunities for their community. That's perfect for a Solarize program, but it's not the only option. If you have a church in your community that you attend that you think people might be interested in, or if you have a book club in your community, if there's a group of people that you go on walks with in the morning, whatever that is, if you have people in your community that you're already talking to who would be interested in this opportunity, that's who we need to spread the word to. So here is our application criteria. So we ask that you have 2 volunteer area organizers. So those are those folks that are going to sit on the steering committee with me and Chris. And then those folks will work together to collect 25 signatures on a petition of interest. And something to stress here is that this petition is non-committal. So in the Solarize timeline, all the way up until you have been handed your contract of your site assessment, once the installation company has been chosen, you can back out of the Solarize program. So just make sure that when you're collecting these signatures, folks know that that's not a binding signature. It's just saying that you're interested in the program once it happens. And then we also ask that you establish a format of community meetings. We hope to meet with the folks that are working on your community about once a month. So if you want to do that virtually or at a certain place at a certain time, whatever works best for you all, we just ask that you have that information when you apply to be a community. And something to think about as well is that anyone can Solarize, not just those people who we select to participate in this program. So like I said, Solarize programs happen nationwide. This model can be used by anyone. So if you, for some reason, can't get enough people to sign your petition, or something falls through along the way and you aren't able to solarize with us, that doesn't mean that you can't get those neighbors together who you've already been talking to and approach an installation company and ask them if they'll give you a discount, ask them if they'll run a program with you, just like that. So anyone can solarize, not just people who we are working with. So here are our incentives in Alaska. We have our Solarize campaign bulk discount, which I'll have more detailed information on in a couple slides. But there is also the Federal Solar Investment Tax Credit, or the ITC. So the ITC was raised to 30% in August when the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. So that's good from 2023 to 2033. This is a great time to be thinking about solar. There's a lot of opportunity in that. The investment tax credit allows you to claim 30% of your total installation as a tax credit. And I believe you have 3 years to use that. So it'll keep rolling over on your taxes for 3 years until you've used all of the credit. And then Alaska also has net metering. So net metering is the process where excess generated electricity is sold back onto the grid for a credit on your bill. You're not going to get like hard cash money back for that electricity. It'll just go as a credit onto your utility bill, but those credits don't expire. So they will roll to the next month and take care of whatever portion of your bill is not covered there. And these are our financing options that we have available for folks. I guess not us, but just financing options that are available to people. The first one is the Home Equity Line of Credit, or a HELOC loan. This allows people to finance as a home improvement project. So this one and the next one, the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, also loans for renovations and energy efficiency projects. Those are good things to consider if you need to make any sort of upgrades to your home in order to have solar panels. If there's like wiring that needs to be done, or you need to replace some part of your roof, anything like that, these loans can help you both do the renovations on your home and also get the solar. So something to consider for folks who might be pursuing those things. There's also the FHA Title I home improvement loan. So that can work for improvements on a single family home. It's offered by Alaska USA Federal Credit Union. So I believe there are branches for Alaska USA in Anchorage and in the Valley. And then there's installer financing. So most of the installation companies that we work with offer some sort of in-house financing program. I guess maybe not in-house, it's through a third party, but when the installation company gives those bids, they'll be able to give more information on what financing options they have available at that time. And here is our example pricing structure for our Solarize program. So like I said, these numbers are based on what the price per watt was of this last summer. So it may not be the same, but this is just a general concept that you can expect to see on your Solarize on the bid that we'll get back for the community. So I have this example broken into 2 tiers for the tiered pricing structure. When we get a bid, there'll be a lot more tiers. There'll be like 5 to 10 of them, depending on the company and their bid. So I just have it as 2 for simplicity's sake. But the low capacity tiered pricing structure, less than 25 kilowatts, is referring to the community as a whole. So we typically see 5 kilowatt installations with the Solarize program. So if you have less than 25 kilowatts in your whole community, that's meaning that less than 5 people have solarized in your program. And that'll give you a price per watt of 3.5 cents. Versus in the high capacity pricing structure, your community is greater than 25 kilowatts. So you have more than 5 people who are solarizing. And that gives you a price per watt of 3.3 cents per watt. So running through an example in the low capacity one, your system size is 5 kilowatts. You have 3.5 cents per kilowatt. That gives you a gross system price of $17,500. The solar investment tax credit will take 30% of that gross system price and allow you to claim it as a tax credit, making your net system cost $12,250. Same thing with the 3 kilowatt system is going to get you out to $7,350. Versus in the high capacity structure, when you bump down to 3.3 cents per watt, your 5 kilowatt system after the tax credit is going to be $11,550. And the 3 kilowatt system, $6,930. So you can look at the comparative like net system costs for the low capacity and high capacity. You might notice that the 5 kilowatt is a greater difference than the 3 kilowatt. So that is a decision that some people take into consideration when they're looking at how many panels they want to put on their home. Sometimes if you get a bigger system, then it starts getting less and less expensive to add panels on. So just something to consider for folks to make the decision that is best for you. And here is our sample timeline for the program. So right now, September through January, we're working in this community recruitment phase. So I'm just working to get the word out to everyone that this opportunity is available and looking for communities who might want to participate. So it's a great time if you're interested in this to start talking to your neighbors. If you are thinking to yourself like, oh, I'd really love to solarize, but I'm just not sure how I would collect 25 interest in my community. I don't know how I would find another volunteer who's interested. That's great. Reach out to me, and that is what I'm here for. So I can help you work to find other volunteers. We can phone bank, we can knock on doors, do whatever we need to do to get the word out in your community and see if you guys can apply for our Solarize season this year. And then once January comes, our communities will start to form steering committees and issue a request for proposals out statewide. In March, we'll select the contractor. And then April to June, we'll do our community outreach period. So that's when we'll be getting folks signed up for site assessments. Those are no cost. You'll get options for what is best for your home. And then you'll have until, like I said, the end of July, early August to sign a contract solidifying your participation in the program. And then July through October, we'll have our installation season. And in late October, early November, somewhere in there, we'll have some sort of community celebration to rejoice in all of our new clean energy that we've created. So important dates for our program here, January 1st, all of our application materials will be due. So those two organizers, 25 signatures, all due to us by January 1st. Then January 9th, we will release the selected communities, and hoping by January 20th, we will have met as a steering committee and sent out that RFP. Installers will have until March 3rd to get those bids in, and then until our selection committees will have until March 24th to make a decision and choose an installer. We will notify the installation companies and then do outreach in April through July. So your next steps, if you are interested in either participating in a program or being a part of a program, like volunteering in the effort, are to email me at rachel@akcenter.org. Even if you just have extra questions about the program, whatever it is, please send me an email and we can chat about how you can be involved, how we can get your community involved, things like that. And then collect those 25 contacts in your community and submit all that information by January 1st. All right, I know that is a ton of information. So thank you all for being here and listening to that very long spiel. So if you have any questions, like I said, you can throw them in that little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and we can work to answer them. So this first question in here about collaborating with Solar Tour, it just didn't work out for us this year with the timeline of everything. We've been pretty busy this October, so we weren't able to make that solar tour deadline, but are interested in maybe participating in the future. It just didn't work out for us this year.
I'll say one really quick thing about the solar tour. So in the past, the sunniest time in Alaska is typically like in the springtime in May and June. And so the solar tour is sponsored by the American Society of Solar, I'm blanking on that. ACES is the acronym. And typically when the solar tour has taken place in Alaska, that has taken place in the springtime just because it tends to be really sunny. So I would say look for that tour happening sometime in the spring.
So there's a question, how much initial investment for one? Really depends on your needs and what your goals are for your setup. So if you're, looking to like completely zero out your bill, then your solar setup is going to be a lot larger than if you're just looking to bump a little bit off each month. So it really depends a lot on your usage. I don't know, Chris, if you have other.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing, and that is, so net metering in Alaska trues up each month. It's a monthly net metering, not an annual net metering. And so even if you're net zero, meaning you produce as much energy as you consume on an annual basis, from a financial perspective, you're going to true up every month. And like Rachel said, you can carry credits over from month to month. But the reality of the situation is, and it's just important that everybody understands, like you're not going to completely offset the value of your electric bill on an annual basis. You might offset it for 6 or 8 or even 10 months, depending upon how much solar you have. Probably not 10 months, but we all know that winter is pretty dark and there's not a lot of solar that's generated in November, December, January, and February up here.
And another thing to keep in mind, if that's like a goal that you have that you want to zero out at least like a portion of your month's bills, there is like an amount that the utility charges you just to be connected to the system. So you can look at your bill and like see that information. But sometimes I don't know if you can actually like use the credit towards that money, or if I think they always charge you to be connected to the grid. So the question is, this program limited to Anchorage and Mat-Su? Are Southeast communities eligible? There have in the past been Solarize programs in Homer and Juneau. So you can reach out to me and I can see if I can connect you with folks that do this work down there. But we facilitate programs in Anchorage, Mat-Su, and Fairbanks. So can always reach out and I can try and connect you with folks, but we specifically don't do programs in those areas. How concentrated does the neighborhood need to be? For example, is West Side, Spenard, Turnagain, Sand Lake concentrated enough? It does depend on the community, and you can pick those community boundaries. I would say that the entire west side of Anchorage would probably be a bit too big for a Solarize community, but two communities that are really close together, like Spenard and Turnagain, could probably participate in the same program. When we moved into the Mat-Su last year, we had to rethink a lot of what our community boundaries look like, because the communities up here are much larger and much more spread apart than they are in Anchorage. So we ran the whole city of Palmer as one community. And we just have to work that out with the installation company when it happens. So it can be easier in those places, like if you are worried about getting enough interest in just your community. So we can work together with neighboring areas on that. And I do know I've had folks from both Turnagain and Sand Lake reach out to me with interest in their areas. So if that is you, or if it's not you, please reach out and maybe we can try and get a little collaboration going between those areas and get a program. The The next question is, how does this work with power outages? My neighborhood has numerous power outages. So our solar systems are made to be grid tied. So if the grid does go out, then the solar goes out. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just, so basically it's a requirement of the National Electric Code that for systems that generate power on the roof, like a solar system, in order to safely operate, they're required to stop producing power if they're still connected to the grid, if the grid has gone down. And the gist of it is that that's to make sure that linemen or others that are going to be working on the grid during an outage are protected. However, there are designs that can operate if there is a power outage. They require storage, so basically a battery. And as Rachel indicated earlier, those batteries are pretty expensive. There are some alternative designs where you can wire in a transfer switch, which essentially allows you to connect a generator to your home, just like a regular gas-fired generator, so that if your power goes out, you can flip that transfer switch, which essentially disconnects your home from the grid, and then plug in a generator. At that point, your solar isn't operating, but you can still have power. And because there's an electrician that needs to interconnect your solar system, if you're interested in something like a transfer switch, that's actually a good time to do it because you'll already have the electrician on the site.
Okay. The next question is, aren't there federal loan programs for solar panels? I don't know. Chris, do you know of any?
Yeah, so there's talk of a green bank that's going to get stood up in Alaska, but I think that's still in process. I think if that were to happen in the state, then there could be some loan programs specifically for solar. Right now, the ones that I know of are the ones that Rachel referenced earlier. So,
yeah, I think with the Inflation Reduction Act money that's coming in, there's a lot of potential for programs like that to be created, but I don't know of any that are available right now. So there's a question, who are the installers? What about nonprofits and schools? So the installation companies that we have worked with in the past are Alaska Solar, Arctic Solar Ventures, Renewable Energy Systems. Am I missing any?
ABS was part of Solarize early on. Midnight Sun Solar has been part of Solarize. I think those are the 5 main ones. I do talk to people every once in a while that indicate that they may start a new company, but so who knows? Obviously, Solarize is really community driven, and so we really leave it up to the communities about who they want to work with.
Yeah. And then the second part of that question, what about nonprofits and schools? We can solarize with schools just how we would with a business under the same thing, and nonprofits as well, but I don't think that nonprofits are able to take advantage of the tax credit.
Yeah, you have to have a tax liability in order to get a tax credit, because you have to pay taxes. So nonprofits and schools and churches and those type of institutions generally don't pay federal income tax, and so they don't have a tax liability.
Yeah, so they could still participate in the program. It just might not be, they wouldn't get the same incentives and benefits as other folks. Would a transfer switch that could be utilized for switching to a generator make it possible to switch to battery backup at a later date?
I can take that, Rachel. So the answer is maybe, but we're kind of getting into some pretty specific system design stuff there. And so rather than give incorrect information, I'd kind of yield to some of the installers at that point. And I'm sorry, I can't give you more detail, but I just want to make sure that we're not giving out incorrect information there. But generally what happens as part of Solarize is if there is a Solarize program going on in your community, you can sign up for a free site assessment, and you can ask those questions to the installer when they do that site assessment.
We're not sure that panels will work on our roof. It's very high and we are in a windy location. Is there a resource or some advice we can get to see if this is suited for our home?
I can go for that. So high roofs are generally not a problem. Sometimes there is a slight cost adder for roofs that are really high or really steep, and that'll be outlined on the installer proposal. As far as really windy locations, so I actually used to live in Bear Valley here in Anchorage, which is probably about the windiest spot in the entire state. It routinely has winds over 100 miles an hour each year. And there are a number of homes that have solar in that community. The installers are experienced and generally overbuild those systems because they realize that they're going to be exposed to some pretty extreme conditions. So you can design for it, and it can work out.
Yeah. With that huge windstorm that ripped through the valley last year, I only know of one solar array that was damaged, and the solar panels weren't actually damaged. It was on a flat roof, so the brackets got like bent up a little bit. But I know a lot of folks in town who had solar panels that weren't damaged by that windstorm. What if we do not have a south-facing roof or land? Is there any point in installing east or west-facing roofs or land? Chris, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. Yeah, so you can install on like a west-facing or even an east-facing aspect of a roof. You're not going to get quite as much production as you might on the south side of a roof, but basically when the installer does a site assessment, they will run it through a model which will estimate the approximate output of that system, depending on what aspect of your roof it's on and how much shading is around it and that kind of thing. In general, you're probably looking at a 20 to 30% reduction in annual energy production if it's on like a west face versus a south face.
I know something that the installation company that we worked with last year said a lot was that the difference between like the orientation of your panels can often be offset with just a couple more panels being added to the side that you have. So it's a lot cheaper to do it that way than it is to like create a standing structure off of your roof to mount the panels to. Solarize Anchorage solarized our neighborhood in 2020, and unfortunately we missed the opportunity. In 2021 and 2022, we tried to get on with other neighborhoods without any success. We'd like to be included with another Solarize group in 2023. How can we do this? So last year, we actually didn't have any communities that participated in the Anchorage area, just because we didn't find any communities who met those application criteria. So I'm sorry that you weren't able to participate in the past, but we can definitely work to make sure that you're able to solarize. Well, I guess we can't guarantee that you can solarize this year, but we would love to work with you to make it a possibility. So you can reach out to me, Rachel at akcenter.org, and I can see if there are folks who are solarizing around you, whose program you can hop onto, or if there's other people in your community that I can find who might want to participate in that program as well. It's always an option. Just reach out and we can figure out what things work best for you.
And also, I'll just quickly say that you don't have to have a Solarize program in your neighborhood in order to install solar on your home. Anybody can call, you can just Google solar installers and you'll probably have several that come up. Anybody can just call an installer and they'll give you a free estimate, just like any other construction project. So if that's something you're interested in, I would encourage people to pursue that and gather that information.
And same thing with like the investment tax credit and stuff. Those opportunities are available to everyone. So all of those discounts that I had mentioned in that slide can still be applied to your setup, whether you solarize with us or not. Have you seen any tracking technology that makes financial sense? I'm not sure I understand that question.
So most of, early on when solar panels were really expensive, then people would oftentimes use trackers because they're really trying to maximize the energy production for the panels that were installed. Now that solar panels are relatively inexpensive compared to what they were, most of the installers don't even bother with tracking anymore. Basically because tracking, in order to have tracking, you pretty much have to have a ground mount system. Those tend to be more expensive than roof mounted systems. And I think the experience of a lot of people is that trackers in the cold weather that we have up here tend to have a lot of maintenance issues, and they oftentimes end up as fixed tilt arrays. And that's an expensive way to install a fixed tilt array. So if people are, are very handy and they like to fix things and they're going to maintain it, then it could be an option. But it's generally not something that I recommend for the average homeowner.
There's also GVEA wants,
I can remember it. It basically, the question was that GVA is considering a 5 megawatt community solar installation. They were looking for more information about whether Solarize was going to be participating in that. Rachel, maybe you could say a little bit more. I know that the Alaska Center does participate or does organize a Solarize program in Fairbanks. So maybe you could just say whether what the Alaska Center's involvement is with that, if you know.
Yeah, we don't bid on solar opportunities, I guess, is if I'm understanding the question correctly. We're not involved with things that the utility is doing, but the Alaska Center is interested in the opportunity of community solar. We would be really excited to see that happen for our state, and we're definitely excited to push for that, but that isn't something that we're bidding on or working with GVEA on right now. And the last part of that question was, I believe, whether or not like all of the components are included in the installation costs, and they are. So when you get your Solarize contract, it'll have your installation fee and all of the components that go with it. They'll come and flip the switch with you, do all of that portion of your setup will all be included in the Solarize cost.
And that's all provided by the installer. It's not the Alaska Center, and the Solarize program doesn't procure that equipment. Once the community chooses an installer to participate in the Solarize program, the relationship is really between the installer and the individual homeowners as far as the financial arrangements go.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any more questions for us tonight? Great. Well, thanks everyone for coming. If you do think of any more questions, you can feel free to email me, email Chris if you have very technical specific questions. But yeah, just talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, and reach out to me with any questions or any interest in participating. I'll send out an email to everyone who attended tonight with the slides that I presented and with some extra resources like emails that you can use to send out to folks and Facebook posts that you can make to get interest procured in your area. So look for that in your inbox and we'll be in touch.